What is going on, sports fans? Happy Thursday, December 21st, winter solstice of the year 2023. We got 4 days till Christmas. We're wrapping up 2023. Welcome into the Gabby Gordon Show. My name is Gabby Gordon. Let's talk sports today because every day is a great day to talk sports. I'm so glad to have you here. Look, this morning, I'm going through Twitter, going through my usual tweeting spur of just trash takes and then good takes, like what I do. If you don't follow the Twitter, it's at Gabby Gordon Show. Give it a follow, because we also get a lot of show updates on there, and the In Case You Missed It segment of the show is always posted on Twitter the following morning. But just going through the Twitter, and I'm a huge fan of Keith McPherson on WFAN. He's a night show host. He did a show yesterday from about, I don't remember the exact time, but he does the night show through the midnight into the early hours of the morning. And so I'm listening to him, and he's under the weather, as a lot of WFAN hosts are. And I also listen to the Boomer and Geo podcast, the Boomer and Geo show, also known as the morning show. And their co-host, Jerry Recco, was sick earlier in the week. Now, Boomer's not feeling great, and then Keith's not feeling well yesterday. So I tweeted out to Keith, and I said, at Jerry Recco's getting the whole station sick. So he happened to mention me and mention that tweet on his show last night. Super cool. So I took it upon myself to tweet him this morning. I said, Keith, hope you're feeling better today. Appreciate the tweet shout out last night. And I told him I look up to him, look up to all the guys at WFAN. I'm an aspiring sports media podcaster, yada, yada, yada. And I didn't expect him to reply. So earlier today, 11:53 a.m., he replied. He says, I feel like trash, trying to champ it out so I can rock tonight. Thank you for your support. Shoot back at these lames with no name and no face hiding on here. Put in the work and connect the dots, and you'll get your shot. Let me know when you need me on the podcast. That's just crazy. Like, oh my goodness. That is a radio show personality who took the time out of his busy schedule to respond to me, who's just an aspiring podcaster trying to get something going here. So super appreciative of KM on the fan. Responded back, said, hope to hear you tonight, feel better, and any day of the week you want to join the podcast, the floor is all yours. He followed me back, so maybe we'll get something going in the future. I know Keith is a huge Yankees fan, so if we can get some Yamamoto news in the coming days, that'd be a great talking point to go back and forth about Yamamoto, whether or not he signs with the Yankees. At least let's just talk about where he signs, so that would be great. So just wanted to start off the show by giving true respect to Keith McPherson over on WFAN. He's been doing some great stuff. I love his shows every single day. He works hard, so best of luck to him, and just honestly the appreciation I have for getting the notice and for you taking time out of your day. Keith, if you're listening to this by any shot, thank you very much. It means a ton to some young aspiring podcaster who hopes to one day be in your shoes, in the sense that, just want to get my shot one day. So thank you again, Keith. We got a great show planned today. We got a lot to talk about. And so let's get right into it. You're listening to the Gabby Gordon Show. We'll be back right after this. Welcome into the Gabby Gordon Show. My name is Gabby Gordon. Happy to have you here on this wonderful Thursday evening. Very, very, very excited for the show we have ahead. Just a really quick talking point again. I know I just spewed my entire intro about Keith McPherson, but he had some really funny callers yesterday on the show, and it brings me to the first segment of the day. One of these callers was an Eagles fan, and I don't even remember what this Eagles fan was talking about because it was completely nonsense. Keith hung up right away. But he's making this point that the Eagles are going to come in to stomp on the Giants and stomp on Tommy DeVito. And so that is the first talking point I wanted to get to today, is the whole Tommy DeVito stuff that's been going on with his agent hiring a new marketing team. They have a legitimate chance to maybe come into Philadelphia and stomp on Jalen Hurts and them Eagles. So let's get into that matchup because there's a lot to talk about with that whole thing. But That caller kind of reminded me of those spoiled Eagles fans out there who they've lost 3 straight games, guys. And it is very, very real that they may lose a 4th. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But is it incredibly possible in this universe that the Giants can stomp on them Eagles the same way the Seahawks did? I can totally see that happening. The Eagles actually announced they're going to be wearing all black uniforms for their critical Christmas Day matchup versus the Giants. This is a big one for them. Maybe they're wearing all black because they're mourning the future loss to the Giants. That could be it too. I don't know. But they've lost 3 games in a row, and they have not looked right. And on Tuesday's show, I went into what Jalen Hurts was saying and who was to blame for that loss, that terrible loss against the Seahawks. And the word choice that Hurts used after that game with commitment and execution, it just didn't sound like Jalen Hurts. And it got me thinking maybe there's something going on in that front office that we don't know about. Maybe something's wrong in that locker room. And we haven't heard much since then. All we know is this is a huge game for the Eagles because if they can drop 4 in a row, they're in some serious trouble. 10-4 right now. Look, that's still a great year. They're still one of the best teams in the league when they're perfectly healthy, when they're at 100%, and when they're executing to their best abilities. But they're not right now. So they're nothing more than just a fraud 10-4 team at this point. Unless they can come in here and stomp on the Giants. And that doesn't say a lot if they do. Because it's the Giants. You know, this isn't a big matchup for them. This should be an easy win for them. If they can execute. If they struggle in this game, we've got some serious stuff to talk about next week with the Eagles. Because if they struggle against the New York Giants at home, man, there's something seriously wrong with that team. Could be a little bit of superstition here with the choice to wear all-black uniforms for Philly. They actually haven't worn the all-black since Week 18 last January, where Jalen Hurts returned to the lineup and he actually secured his team's number 1 seed overall. And in that game, he returned from a sprained right shoulder. He threw for 229 yards in a 22-16 win over the Giants. So maybe a little bit of superstition, but if we remember from that game last season, Jake Elliott was actually the real hero. He converted field goals of 32, 52, and 39 yards, all in the first half. He had Boston Scott, who ran for an 8-yard touchdown. 10 of his 17 career touchdowns are against the Giants. And the Eagles took a 16-0 lead into halftime. So I don't know if the Eagles are superstitious or anything like that, or if it's just a coincidence, or maybe they're just wearing all black because it's a Christmas Day matchup. It's a fun day. You know, everybody's watching football on Christmas Day. I don't know. I think it would be absolutely wonderful to see the Giants come in to Philly's house. Hashtag Fly Eagles Fly turns into hashtag Buy Eagles Buy. Giants fans go crazy. The Tommy DeVito story goes off the charts. Tommy Cutlets comes in there and kicks some Jalen Hurts butt. I think that would be such a great story to talk about the day after Christmas, man. That Tuesday show, December 26th, would be fire if the Giants could come in there and take a win and give them their 4th straight loss. And I'm not even like an anti-Eagles type of girl. I'm a Packer fan. The Eagles really mean nothing to me. It's just really interesting because I know that rivalry, and I've got a lot of Giants fans in my house and in my family who are going to be rooting very heavily for Tommy Cutlets on that day. And it's Christmas. It's one of my favorite times of the year, if not my favorite time of the year, to watch Christmas Day football. Come on! 4th straight loss, and it's to the Giants. Eagles fans would be complaining all over social media. They'd probably blame the refs or something like that. That would just be a great game. This is also a really huge game for Tommy DeVito and his agent, Sean Stellato. They really need to capitalize on whatever growing fame is going on. I honestly just, in my opinion, just let the kid play football. Right? If you told Tommy DeVito that he was going to be starting against the Eagles on Christmas Day in 2023 at the beginning of the season, he'd probably laugh in your face. And he has some hysteria going on right now. They had this whole scandal. I don't know if you want to call it a scandal, maybe more of a miscommunication type thing with their whole restaurant appearance, and then him not showing because there was no. I don't even want to talk about the details of it because it's already kind of out of the news eye. It's already been rectified by DeVito and his team, but he did hire a new marketing team so that those kind of miscommunication things don't happen. Sean Stellato, his agent, is just going to kind of be his agent, focus on the numbers, and focus on playing football. And the new marketing team that he hired will hopefully handle future appearances and marketing endeavors so that those miscommunications don't happen, because it really didn't make DeVito look too good. And I don't think he has anything to do with it. I think Tommy DeVito is just focused on football, as he should be. But his entire team and New York is focused on him for the wrong reasons. This is a guy who has his first shot, could be his only shot. If he comes into Philadelphia on Christmas Day and can win that game, it will get him back into the media for the right reasons. And I keep talking about this, and again, I hate to say it, but it brings me back to the Rodgers and the media thing that we've been talking about all week. Some of these guys are so headline hungry, so media hungry, that they have to be talked about in the media every single day. And their intentions are good, but it turns out to be negative. It'll hurt some of their careers. Some guys have been killed by the media, and their intentions were good. And it worked out as a dumpster fire for them in their career. This could be DeVito's only chance. So, while it was starting out as a very wholesome, feel-good story, Tommy Cutlets, the Italian stallion of New York Giants football, right? That's a feel-good story. And I feel good that he's getting his shot and that he's honestly capitalized on it for the most part. And he's been making a name for himself. Nobody knew who he was, and now people know his name. And that's a respectable and a plausible feat for him to have accomplished. But he's got to stay humble, and he's got to remember why he's here. He's here to play football. He's not here to be talked about in the media for his Italian deals and his nicknames. He's here to play football for the Giants and give them a serious chance at winning games the rest of this year. And I think his mind is in the right spot for that, but I think some other people's minds have been wandering lately, including his agent, Sean Stellato, who may not be remembering why DeVito's name has been mentioned. It's been mentioned to play football for the New York Giants. And he's really got to stay focused on that, because it could slip away from him in an instant. It could slip away in an instant. He hasn't proven much yet. He was a no-name before he came in. He's got a long way to go for people to continue talking about him for the right reasons. His entire focus this whole week should be on nothing but beating Philly in their home stadium with some harsh Eagles fans who are going to tear him apart. Eagles fans are going to take every chance they can to rip Tommy DeVito to pieces on every single drive he has. And how he responds to that is going to change how people talk about him in the media. So his only priority should be playing good football. He doesn't even have to win this game, because I really don't think many people expect the Giants to beat Philly. I don't think they're going to come in there and beat Philly. I think it is more possible for them now than it has ever been this season, because Philly's just been having a really rough stretch of things, and their confidence is probably plummeted after that Seahawks loss. So if any time now for the Giants to come in there and beat Philly, it's now. Tommy DeVito's time is now. And that should be the only focus. He doesn't even need to win this game. If he can put up a good offensive performance, that's enough for him to be looked at in a positive light. So that should be the only focus for the Giants and for Tommy this week. You want to call him Tommy Cutlets, you want to do the Italian hand gesture, that's all great. That's what makes him him. He's Tommy DeVito. He's an Italian stallion. But let's not lose sight of why he's here. He's not a puppet. He's a football player, and he's the starting quarterback for the New York Giants. And he's got to act like it. And he's got to continue pushing so that he can make more of a name for himself. So he's not just known as the cute short story of the 2023 New York Giants season. He wants to be their future. He's got to act like he can be their future. So he's really got to stay out of the media for the wrong reasons because it's going to kill his career. Whatever is left of his career, whether there is a long way to go or whether it's just kind of a one-and-done, one-hit wonder type of situation, he's got to remember why he's here. If the Giants can come in and beat Philly, that's going to be phenomenal for him. Even if he puts up a good game and they lose, I still think it's phenomenal for him. But any time now to come in and beat Philadelphia, it is now. And he's a good guy. I'm not knocking him at all. I'm really happy for him. I mean, I don't know him. I'm not a Giants fan. But I'm happy for him, and I'm happy for New York because they've been miserable all year. And it seems that Daniel Jones and Tommy DeVito have a pretty good relationship, which is nice. A guy to look up to. The whole situation with New Jersey's Coniglio is old-fashioned. In Morristown, it's a pizza place. It's been rectified, but I think the best part about it is that DeVito made it right. He took it upon himself and he made it right. There was some miscommunication about how much money he was going to make for an appearance that was scheduled, but it wasn't communicated. There was no contract signed or whatever, and then he just ended up doing it for free and had a meet and greet for the fans. He sampled some pies. It's great. I think that's great that he did that. Made it right. Made him look good. It was a class act type situation. None of this is on Tommy DeVito. Don't get me wrong here. There is nothing wrong with this kid. It's the people around him that are going to make or break his career. Because the people around him, such as his agent, Mr. Stellato, needs to be careful of what he shows in the media. But all in all, this is not a knock on Tommy Cutlets. Like, don't take it that way if you're a Giants fan or if you're just a Tommy DeVito fan right now. He was a nobody. Now he's a somebody. And that means something, not only to him, but to people who may be in the league who are currently nobodies. Like, that's a nice, a plausible feat that he's gotten, like I said before. Nothing against him. I think they just need to be careful about how they promote him, and his only focus should be on football, which I think it is. I think that they're going to make some good stuff happen on Christmas. So speaking of Christmas, 5-9 Giants take on the 10-4 Philadelphia Eagles on Monday, December 25th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox at Lincoln Financial Field. Obviously, the Eagles are the favorites to win this one. Their numbers are light years better than the Giants. Their offense ranks great. The Giants, not so much. But that means nothing in the grand scheme of things if you can't execute, like Jalen Hurts said. If there's a commitment issue, like Jalen Hurts said, Giants could come in there and stomp some Philly butt. And I hope they do. I hope they do. That would be a great thing to talk about on December 26th show of the Gabby Gordon Show. That'd be great. With that, we're going to take a break, quick, brief timeout, and I will get back to you in just a minute. You're listening to the Gabby Gordon Show. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Gabby Gordon Show. My name is Gabby Gordon. If you are just tuning in, last segment before the break, we talked a lot about Tommy DeVito and the Christmas present that the Giants have in Philly. Truly a Christmas present. No better time to beat Philadelphia than now. Let's move on to some NBA. There's actually been some pretty bad news for Knicks fans like myself. Mitchell Robinson is going to miss the rest of the season with an ankle injury. The Knicks applied for a disabled player exception for $7.8 million yesterday as a result of the injury. They did come in and stomp on the Brooklyn Nets, 121-102 last night. That was a good game for the Knicks, but it didn't come without some bad news. Mitchell Robinson's season is over. He first hurt his left ankle in their loss to the Celtics earlier this month, and he returned to the game briefly in the second half after they did some initial x-rays that ultimately came back negative, but he didn't actually play in the fourth quarter at all. and he has not played since. So then last week, the Knicks announced that he had undergone surgery on his ankle, and he was expected to miss about 8 to 10 weeks recovering from that surgery, and that would put him back on track to rejoin the team before the regular season were to end. But by applying for the disabled player exception on Wednesday, they believed that he would be out for the rest of the year, so a failed surgery and real bad news for the Knicks. And Mitchell Robinson's a guy who has had the injury bug as of late. He has had some sort of inability to stay healthy, and he's repeatedly been kept out of the Knicks lineup since he came to the pros in 2018. He's missed 10 or more games in 5 of his 6 seasons, and he's missed 20 or more 3 times. So now there's about 2/3 of the season remaining, and they're going to have to find a way, the Knicks are going to have to find a way to mend their center position. So it's going to be tough for them. And it's rough. It's rough. But there was some good news. The Knicks regained control of the rivalry against the Brooklyn Nets, and they won in Brooklyn once again. So Julius Randle scored 26 points. Dante DiVincenzo, the Italian stallion of the Knicks, that was going around. He's called the Big Ragu, I think. I don't even know. I'm gonna have to fact check that, but he's got his own Italian nickname. He added 23 points, and the Knicks took the win, 121-102 for their first victory at the Barclays Center in 4 years. Emmanuel Quigley had 19 points. Jalen Brunson finished with 16 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds for the Knicks. And they lost 9 straight meetings when Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were in Brooklyn. The Knicks have easily won all 3 matchups since those 2 stars were traded last season. I think actually it was on WFAN. I think it was this morning with Boomer Esiason on the morning show with Greg Giannotti, who said he's watching the game and all he could think about is, man, I miss Kyrie. What a turnaround for this rivalry at the Barclays Center. And good for the Knicks. Julius Randle said everything's back to normal, I guess, which is great. Both teams were playing their first games back after returning from trips to the West, and the Knicks played with far more energy, and they led nearly the entire game. DiVincenzo made 5 3-pointers and grabbed 8 rebounds, while Josh Hart had 10 points and 13 rebounds off the bench. But the Knicks showed no mercy, man. Coach Tom Thibodeau said his team is not going to allow the schedule to be an excuse, and they wouldn't allow it to be an excuse against the Brooklyn Nets, because they were still technically on their trip. They finished 3-2 after beating the Lakers in LA on Monday. And Tom Thibodeau said, we're not going to allow the schedule to be an excuse for us, and we're going to come out there and we're going to play strong. Thibodeau actually said, quote, when they tell us the ball's going up at this time, we are ready. That's a pretty good quote. That's a real good quote. That gets me fired up for the Knicks, man. Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson each scored 20 points for the Nets, who lost their 4th straight. Mikal Bridges continued to struggle. He missed his first 8 shots and finished 4 for 21 for 15 points after going 4 for 16 on Monday at Utah. The Nets missed 11 of their first 13 shots, and the Knicks had a double-digit lead by the midpoint of the first quarter, and they led 60-51 at halftime. To continue on with the recap of the game, the Knicks opened the second half with an 11-0 burst, 11-0 burst for a 71-51 lead on Julius Randle's basket. DiVincenzo had a basket and a 3-pointer during the surge. He hit 2 more threes in the next few minutes, and the Nets just could not build any momentum. I mean, they missed their first 8 shots of the third quarter. They put together a 16-5 run, and the lead was cut a little bit to 84-77. But the Knicks came back. They got the last 3 buckets of the period. They led 90-77 going into the fourth quarter, and then they came back with an 8-0 burst, and it pushed the 98-77 lead, and that just put the game away. It was clear who was prepared more for the game. It was clear who was hyped more for the game. And it was clear who prepared more for the game. Let's not forget, however, that the Nets have played for the 21st time in 27 games this year without Ben Simmons, who's going to be out until at least January. He's got a pinched nerve in his lower back. And the Nets actually said before the game that the number 1 pick in the 2016 draft, Ben Simmons, was showing some improved strength in the area, but he's still only up to doing some individual court work, and his status is not quite ready to be updated. They're going to revisit that in approximately 2 weeks. So in the new year, we could see Ben Simmons back on the squad for the Nets, but not quite yet. The Nets do, however, hope to have Dennis Smith Jr., upper back injury, and Lonnie Walker with a left hamstring injury back on the floor next week. So what's up next for these two teams? The Knicks are going to be hosting Milwaukee on Saturday, December 23rd. That's going to be the opening of a 2-game series before they end up meeting again on Christmas. And the Nets will be hosting Denver tomorrow night. So we'll see how those two go and if the Knicks can keep this momentum alive. We're going to circle back to the NFL, and again, what did I tell you yesterday? What did I tell you? The Jets cannot stay out of the media, and it's literally for all the wrong reasons. So on Tuesday, Aaron Rodgers took to the Pat McAfee show to say that he was not going to be cleared. He was not at 100%, and we would not see him play in a Jets uniform for the rest of the season. But he does want to keep practicing, so what do the Jets do? They make room for him on the 53-man roster, and what happens as a result? Veteran fullback Nick Bodden gets waived. I mean, come on! That is someone's job! That's a man with a wife and kids who's now making less money for Aaron Rodgers, who's not even playing this year! How stupid can you be? God, it gets me so fired up. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? If we're the New York Jets, if you're the New York Jets, what are we doing? He does not need to practice with the team. If he didn't want to keep practicing, the Jets wouldn't have to have released a player. But now this player needs to be headed to the waivers. I mean, if he's unclaimed, he will re-sign with the Jets practice squad. He can re-sign with them. After, of course, they let someone else go. So now you've got 2 people losing their jobs or demoting. So that's the ultimate cost of Rodgers' desire to keep practicing, but he's not playing. I mean, for Rodgers to officially remain practicing, someone has to go. Is there really a true need for Rodgers to be practicing on the 53-man roster when he's not playing again this year? He's Aaron Rodgers, okay? He's Aaron Rodgers. If this is a whole thing about him being around the team, boosting the morale, he can do that without being on the 53-man roster. I think he's got a little bit of say. But now you've got a guy who's been waived. And I know he's a fullback. I know you've probably never heard of him. I've never heard of him either. But now you've got a guy who's been waived, making less money, for a guy who's not even going to play the rest of this year. It's just ridiculous. And it's just like Rob Saleh's a puppet, and he lets these things happen. Rodgers wants to play, we're going to let him play, even if it means he's going to pop his Achilles again. Rodgers wants to practice, all right, you're out. The Savior's coming into practice. Step aside. Jeez. It's just infuriating. And if you are a Jets player, honestly, this makes the morale even worse. There's no wiggle room with Rodgers. He gets what he wants. He's got every say. He is the New York Jets. And now that he has claimed that he has his loyalty to the New York Jets for the next couple of years, that he wants to play into his 40s, and he wants to be a Jet into his 40s and see what his body can do, now everybody's bowing down to him because he's their only hope left. He's their only chance at success for the next 5 years if he plays that long, and I really don't think he will. And if you're a Jets fan, you just back this guy up with every bone in your body, and it's disgusting because the things he is doing are making them the dumpster fire. The fire is growing, and it's for all the wrong reasons. I mean, you mean to tell me that the Jets couldn't find a way to get him work without burning a roster spot? The whole point, or so they claim, is that he wants to practice to prepare for 2024. You mean to tell me you couldn't have found a way to do that without costing some guy his roster spot? I mean, now they have a roster spot to a guy who's not even playing. They have no chance in the postseason. They're going to be sitting on their couch in another 2 weeks, watching the rest of the league play in the postseason. Doesn't even matter. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And it brings me back to the original point that if Rodgers wasn't a Jet, Rob Saleh would not have a job. And after this clown show that he's putting on there in New York, he doesn't deserve one. If you're asking me, Rodgers has all the money in the world. He's one of the most rich players to ever play the game. Got one of the biggest contracts in NFL history. Tell him to mail some of the money to Nick, the guy he just took a roster spot from and took some pay from too. Go mail that money that he's not making now. Go put that in his bag, the money he's not making now because your selfish desires to play on the roster, or not even play, to practice on the 53-man roster when you're not even playing this year, has taken some money from a guy. Go mail him that money that he's missing out on. Because we know you have it. It's just like, man, karma's going to get him. Just a terrible move. It's a terrible move. New York Giants Daily on Twitter responded to the tweet by Field Yates that announced the move to make room for Rodgers on the roster, saying, LOL, Rodgers is not coming back, but he's taking up a roster spot. Clown behavior. At Fryer_Stan responded back with, this is disgusting, actually. Life with Mikey52 responded back, imagine being so selfish as a teammate that you needed to be activated even though there's a 0% chance you play, and costing a teammate a roster spot and game checks. Aaron Rodgers is an awful teammate and a selfish human. Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Chris Williamson at CWilliamson44 responded back, sick to my stomach for Nick Bodden. He ain't deserve this, LOL. Rob Shenanigans. Aaron Rodgers is such an egomaniac that he actually had the Jets cut a guy just so he could keep up this charade that he might still play this season. I can't read the rest of that tweet. There's some colorful language that I cannot share on the show, but you get the idea. People aren't happy. People are talking about it, and this makes Rodgers look like such a you-know-what. It is just, man. I know it's a business. I know nobody's position is promised. And I know it is a business. I know that the NFL is. This would be a very different story if the Jets were making a playoff run and Rodgers had a chance to come back and play in the playoffs. But they're not. There is a 0% chance that he is stepping on the field in a regular season game for the Jets. So what is the reason to make room for him on a roster? It's just ridiculous. It makes me sick to my stomach. Another day, another moment that the Jets and Aaron Rodgers put me in a bad mood during this show, man. You're listening to The Gabby Gordon Show. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to The Gabby Gordon Show. My name is Gabby Gordon. I don't even want to talk about that. I've had 2 Aaron Rodgers rants in the last week. That's how you know there's a problem there. I think part of my pent-up anger is just because how he handled the whole offseason leaving the Packers. And I am a Packer fan. If you don't know that, now you do. So that whole thing with him playing games about where he was going to be headed, whether or not he was going to stay in Green Bay, I mean, that just pisses me off. But now to see what he's been doing I just think it's all about him. I don't remember the exact tweet I read in the last segment, but whoever called him an egomaniac could not be further from true. Could not be further from wrong. Is incredibly true. It's incredibly true. He's an egomaniac. He's an egomaniac with one thing on his agenda. How can I get people to talk about me? Well, you know what, Rodgers? We're not talking about you anymore today. We've got some breaking news from the fantasy footballers who reported it first. Well, actually, ESPN.com reported it. Kenny Pickett, quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is ruled out for Saturday. Mason Rudolph is slated to draw the start at the quarterback position versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and the backup would be Mitch Trubisky. So Pickett's now going to target a potential return to action December 31st against the Seahawks, but he will not play this weekend. And this is a crowded AFC race for them Steelers. Mike Tomlin officially ruled Pickett out today, and they're entering a matchup with the Bengals. They're clinging to dwindling playoff odds, and again, it is a crowded AFC race. So Tomlin said that Mason Rudolph is going to leapfrog Mitch Trubisky on the depth chart. Trubisky will be the backup this week. Trubisky has started the last 2 weeks, but he was benched late against the Colts a week ago. So Pickett suffered an ankle injury just before halftime of the Steelers' loss to the Cardinals back in Week 12. And Tomlin said at the beginning of the week that they would, quote, leave the light on for Pickett ahead of the Bengals game. He practiced this week, but he has been limited for the entire week. And the original timetable for Pickett's return was 3 to 4 weeks. This weekend will mark 3 weeks from the injury, so they're hoping to have him back next week, the following December 31st against the Seahawks. He has already suffered, the team has already suffered some decent injuries on defense. So they're going to be undermanned again on that team, and their playoff hopes are on the line here. So I'm on a playoff predictor website. It's actually the New York Times. So they're 7-7 right now, the Steelers. They lost to the Colts last week. So now their playoff chances are 3%. Okay? So let's just say the Steelers can beat the Bengals. Hold on, let me reload this, set it back to 0. So let's just say that the Steelers can beat the Bengals. Right now they're at 3% chance to make the playoffs. 97% probability that they will be out. So let's say the Steelers can beat the Bengals. That bumps them up to a 7% chance to make the wild card. The following week, December 31st, hoping to have Kenny Pickett back for that game, they would be against the Seahawks. Let's say they can pull off that game. That only bumps them up to 16%. Still 84 that they're going to be out. And then the following week, Week 18, they're at the Ravens. The odds of them winning that game are slim, but let's say they can pull off a miracle and win that game. That's crazy for them. If they can win out these next 3 weeks, they have a 78% chance to make the playoffs. That, of course, doesn't include other matchups and stuff. That's just looking at the Steelers for the rest of their season. 78 still kind of a toss-up in the air, but them winning out would really be their only chance to get a wild card spot. They're obviously not going to host a wild card. They're obviously not going to get the bye week. So they really got to win out. And, with injuries and not having their quarterback, Kenny Pickett, able to run that offense, it just doesn't look quite likely that they can pull it off. But hey, crazier things have happened. I think they can beat the Bengals. I think they can beat the Seahawks. Do I think they can beat the Ravens? Most likely not. Most likely not. But if they can win out, we could see a miracle happen in Pittsburgh. Right, okay, so now the Bengals, who are 8-6, they beat the Vikings last week, and they have a 34% chance to make the playoffs in a wild card spot coming into this week against the Steelers. So let's just see what their odds are. Obviously, they have a better chance already at making the playoffs, 8-6 versus a 7-7 team. Let's say the Bengals beat the Steelers. That bumps them up to 54, a 54% chance to make the wild card. Let's say they could beat the Chiefs. And this is something that can happen because I just don't think the Chiefs are going to go very far at all in the playoff run. They just haven't been right. Something's wrong there. Maybe they could turn it around this week, but I just don't see it happening. So the Bengals at the Chiefs, let's say the Bengals can come in there at Arrowhead and take the win. That bumps them up to 86% of a chance to make the playoffs. That's huge for them. Then they got the Browns in Week 18. I think they can pull off that win as well. So if they were to win out, they're making the playoffs. 99% chance to win. 99% chance to make the wild card there. So if the Bengals can win out, which it is very realistic that they can, then we can see them making a playoff run with Jake Browning as their quarterback. What a story that would be. You know, Joe Burrow out for the year, and then Jake Browning comes in. What a success story that would be if they can make a pretty decent run in the playoffs. So that would be what their likelihood would be. Let's just say the Steelers win in Week 16. That bumps them, and they still are able to beat the Chiefs and the Browns. That bumps them down to 70%. So now I'm going to play around with it a little bit. So let's say the Bengals beat the Steelers, but the Bengals lose to the Chiefs. That's got them back in the 70s, 72%. Okay, let's say the Bengals win 16-17 against the Steelers and the Chiefs, but lose the final game of their regular season to the Browns. That bumps them down to 68%. So the Browns, really all these games matter to them. They really need to look to win out as well. They've got a little bit more wiggle room than the Steelers do, but all in all, they really need to look to win out. Both of these teams need to win. So this game between the Bengals and the Steelers, it's really a must-win for both sides, like we're going to be seeing tonight with the Rams and the Saints. There's a lot of must-win games where only one team can take the win. So yeah, speaking of this matchup between the Saints and the Rams, let's do the playoff predictor on them too. And I'll quickly run over what that game is going to look like. We did a lot of a preview on the playoff implications on yesterday's show, but let's just look at the percentage. So let's say they beat the Saints tonight. They currently have a 48% chance of making the playoffs. If they can beat the Saints tonight, that bumps all the way up to 70. And I'm taking the Rams tonight with Matt Stafford. I think he's been playing great, and I think he will continue to with playoffs on the line. So then you got Week 17, the Rams at the Giants. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about Tommy Cutlets. I just think the Rams are going to win that one as well. If the Rams can win the next 2 weeks, they're up to 90% chance to make the playoffs. And then the Rams at the 49ers. Let's say they lose that one, right? The 49ers, in my opinion, best team in the league right now. Let's say that they lose that one. So they don't win out, but they go 2-1 for the final 3 weeks. They've got an 88% chance to win. I keep saying win. They got an 88% chance to make the wild card. And if they can pull off a 49ers win and win out, then they have a 100% chance. They would be in the postseason. And that could happen because the 49ers are a lock already at this point. They may not play their starters in Week 18. In fact, I don't think they will. So that could happen for the Rams to win out. Very possible. Because let's look, I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but this is really what Week 16 looks like at this point. You're jumping around at all these teams to see how they can get into the postseason. So all the 49ers have to do is win 2 of their next 3 games to get that first round bye and home field advantage. So it is very possible that they're going to sit their starters Week 18. So that would give the Rams a great opportunity to win out. If the 49ers can win their next 2 games, then they clinch everything they possibly need. They don't play their starters Week 18. The Rams have an easier victory. The Rams can win out. They're looking pretty confident. So again, the Rams playing the Saints tonight. How can the Saints make the playoffs? So the Saints can control their own destiny. Right now, it seems that they are looking at a 41% chance of making the postseason and a 28% chance of winning the NFC South. So if they can take care of business against the Rams tonight, that would improve their chances to roughly 75%. If they can't win tonight, they're going to slip to just 15% chance of making the playoffs. The Week 17 matchup could very well mean everything to the Saints concerning the division title if they can win this week. They do have a decent shot at the wild card berth, though. So, again, it is a toss-up, and it is a must-win for the Saints. I think it is a must-win for the Rams, but only one team can win. And Matt Stafford's been playing some good ball. So, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, I don't think the Saints can do it. I think the Rams, knowing that they have some wiggle room within controlling their destiny to the postseason, may propel them some confidence to get a win this week, to get a win tonight. So excited for that game, primetime Thursday night football. And we'll talk about that result in tomorrow's show. So that's going to be a fun one. That is going to be a fun one. This is just the best time of year because you got Christmas right around the corner for those who celebrate. It's been the holiday season all month long, so it's just a feel-good moment. But then you've got Christmas-type football coming. You've got playoff implication games, underdogs who are going to be taking the win. I know it already. We're going to get some underdog stories this week. I can feel it in my bones. The Giants, I feel it. It's like something's in the air. And the Giants are going to come in there and stomp on Philly. An underdog story for Tommy Cutlets and the squad. I could feel it, man. And it feels good. It's a great time of year. With that being said, that's going to conclude today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you tomorrow, Friday, December 22nd. I will see you at 5:30 p.m. like always, Eastern Standard Time. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your evening, and I will catch you next time. As always, you've been listening to The Gabby Gordon Show. My name's Gabby Gordon. Blessed to have you here with me. Have a good one.